The year is 1878. Dust devils dance down the main street of Redemption Gulch, a town clinging to the promise of gold like a tick on a dog. The air smells of sweat, whiskey, and unfulfilled dreams. Buildings, hastily erected, lean against each other for support, mirroring the townsfolk. Redemption Gulch is a place where fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye, and life is cheap. Dominating the ramshackle skyline is the Golden Nugget Saloon. Its garish sign, depicting a nugget larger than a man's head, is the only splash of color in the otherwise monochrome landscape. Inside, the din of piano music, drunken laughter, and clinking glasses barely masks the underlying tension. The saloon is more than just a place to drink. It's the heart of Redemption Gulch, the stage upon which its dramas play out. And at the center of that stage is Belle. Belle moves through the crowded room with the grace of a dancer. Her smile is as warm as the setting sun. Her eyes, however, hold a secret as cold as a mountain stream. She's the Golden Nugget's most prized possession, captivating every man who crosses her path. Few suspect the resolve hidden beneath her charm, a resolve forged in the crucible of this unforgiving land. Belle has a secret and a plan, and both are about to be put to the test. The stagecoach rattled into Redemption Gulch, kicking up a cloud of dust that momentarily obscured the Golden Nugget. A collective sigh of relief swept through the passengers as they stepped onto the uneven ground. Among them were 5 men, their faces grim, their eyes scanning the surroundings with practiced caution. These were lawmen, sent from the territorial capital to bring justice to this lawless corner of the world. Leading the group was Sheriff Brody, a man weathered by years of chasing outlaws. His face was a roadmap of hard living, etched with lines that spoke of countless sleepless nights and difficult decisions. Beside him walked Deputy Johnson, a young man barely out of his teens, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. He carried his rifle a little too tightly, his eagerness evident in every step. The other 3 deputies followed, each a study in stoicism. They were here for one reason: to capture Snake Eye Sam, a notorious outlaw who had been terrorizing the region. Sam was wanted for robbery, murder, and a host of other crimes. And Belle, the saloon girl with a warm smile and cold eyes, was rumored to be his lover. The lawmen had their work cut out for them. Sheriff Brody and his deputies strode into the Golden Nugget, their presence immediately silencing the room. All eyes turned to them, sizing them up, trying to gauge their intentions. Belle watched them from behind the bar, her smile unwavering, her mind already racing. This was it, the moment she had been preparing for. Brody approached the bar, his gaze locking with Belle's. "Whiskey," he rasped, his voice rough from the trail. Belle poured him a generous shot, her hand steady despite the turmoil within. "Welcome to Redemption Gulch, Sheriff," she said, her voice like honey. "I hope your stay is memorable." As Brody downed his drink, Belle turned her attention to the other deputies. She offered them drinks on the house, a gesture of hospitality that seemed genuine enough. Deputy Johnson, eager to make a good impression, accepted with a grateful smile. Belle mixed each drink with care, adding a special ingredient to Brody's and a few of the others, a tasteless, odorless poison she had acquired from a traveling apothecary. Her plan was in motion. The game had begun. The next morning, Sheriff Brody awoke with a splitting headache and a queasy stomach. He dismissed it as the effects of the whiskey and the long journey. 2 of the other deputies were similarly afflicted, complaining of dizziness and nausea. Belle watched them with a practiced eye, gauging the poison's progress. Her plan was working, but she knew she had to be careful. Any suspicion could ruin everything. As the day wore on, the lawmen's conditions worsened. Brody, normally a tower of strength, could barely stand. The other deputies were confined to their beds, racked with chills and fever. The town doctor, a weary man named Doc Miller, examined them but could find nothing conclusive. He attributed their illness to a bad batch of water or some other unknown ailment. Deputy Johnson, however, seemed to be faring better than the others. He had only taken a small sip of his drink the previous night, preoccupied with the excitement of his first real case. While the others were suffering, he felt only a mild discomfort, a slight unease that he couldn't quite explain. But the day was young, and Bell's plan was far from complete. The tension in the Golden Nugget thickened, heavy with unspoken dread. By nightfall, Sheriff Brody was dead. The other two deputies who had drunk deeply from Bell's offered whiskey followed him soon after, their bodies ravaged by the undetectable poison. Doc Miller, baffled and overwhelmed, could only pronounce the cause of death as a virulent fever, exacerbated by the harsh conditions of the West. The town mourned, or pretended to, for the fallen lawman. Deputy Johnson, though still feeling unwell, was now the only lawman left standing. He felt a growing unease, a sense that something was terribly wrong. The sudden deaths of his colleagues, the doctor's inability to explain their rapid decline, the subtle glances he received from the townspeople, it all added up to a feeling of dread. He remembered Belle's overly sweet smile, the drink she had so generously offered. A chilling thought crept into his mind. Could she be responsible? He dismissed it at first as paranoia, but the seed of doubt had been planted. He looked at the remaining deputy, who had avoided Belle's poisoned drink, and saw the same suspicion mirrored in his eyes. They were alone, vulnerable, and surrounded by secrets. The hunt for Snake Eye Sam had just become a fight for survival. That night, Deputy Johnson, whose real name was Billy, tossed and turned his bed, plagued by feverish dreams and a gnawing pain in his stomach. He finally understood why he felt so ill. It wasn't just the water or the food or the long ride. It was the drink Belle had given him. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He had been poisoned. He staggered out of bed, his head spinning. The remaining deputy, a quiet, observant man named Davies, was already awake, packing his meager belongings. "We have to get out of here, Billy," Davies said, his voice barely a whisper, "before she finishes us off." But Billy was no longer thinking about escape. The grief of losing his friends, the betrayal by Belle, the burning anger within him, it all coalesced into a single, unwavering purpose: revenge. "I'm not leaving, Davies," Billy said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I'm going to find out why she did this, and I'm going to make her pay." Davies looked at Billy, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and admiration. He knew he couldn't change Billy's mind. "Then I'm staying with you," Davies said. "We'll do this together." The next morning, Billy and Davies began their investigation. They started by questioning Doc Miller, hoping he might have overlooked something. But the doctor remained convinced it was a fever, though he admitted the speed of its progression was unusual. Next, they cautiously approached some of the townspeople, but met with a wall of silence. Most were either genuinely afraid of Belle or loyal to her, while others simply didn't want to get involved. Billy realized he was up against more than just Belle. He was fighting against the entire town, a town that had chosen sides. He and Davies were outsiders, unwelcome and unwanted. As they walked back to their temporary lodging, Billy noticed a young boy watching them from across the street. He recognized the boy as one of the Golden Nugget's regulars, often seen running errands for Belle. Billy approached the boy, his voice gentle. "Son, do you know anything about what happened to the sheriff and the deputies?" The boy hesitated, his eyes darting nervously around. I don't know anything," he stammered, but Billy could see the fear in his eyes. He knew the boy was hiding something. The hunt had begun, and Billy was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, in a small, dimly lit room above the Golden Nugget, Belle sat staring at a faded photograph. It was a picture of her and Snake Eye Sam, taken years ago, before the outlaw life had hardened his features. Her face, younger and softer, held a glimmer of hope that had long since been extinguished. Belle hadn't always been a saloon girl, and she hadn't always been involved with an outlaw. She had come to Redemption Gulch with dreams of a better life, only to find herself trapped in a web of poverty and desperation. It was Sam who had saved her, rescuing her from a fate worse than death. He had given her a purpose, a reason to fight. Her loyalty to him was absolute. She believed in his twisted sense of justice, his belief that the world owed him something. But lately, she had begun to have doubts. Sam had become more ruthless, more reckless. His actions were no longer about survival. They were about greed and power. Still, she pushed those thoughts aside. She had made a commitment to him, and she wouldn't betray him, not now, not ever. She would protect him, even if it meant sacrificing everything, even if it meant poisoning innocent men. The photograph slipped from her fingers, landing face down on the dusty floor. Billy and Davies knew they couldn't openly confront Belle. She was too well protected, too deeply entrenched in the town's power structure. Instead, they decided to play a waiting game, observing her movements, trying to anticipate her next move. They spent hours watching the Golden Nugget, noting who came and went, searching for any sign of Snake Eyes Sam. Belle, in turn, was aware of their scrutiny. She could feel their eyes on her, like a weight on her shoulders. She knew it was only a matter of time before they made a move. She began to take precautions, moving about the town with greater caution, avoiding any unnecessary contact with Billy and Davies. The tension between them was palpable, a silent battle of wills played out in the dusty streets of Redemption Gulch. Billy tried to use the young boy from the saloon to get information, but Belle had clearly warned him to stay away. The boy would dart away whenever Billy approached. Belle was always one step ahead, anticipating their every move. This cat-and-mouse game would escalate, and Billy knew the stakes were higher than ever. He had to find a way to break through Belle's defenses, or he would never uncover the truth. And time was running out. One evening, Davies noticed a familiar face slipping into the back entrance of the Golden Nugget, Jed, the town's blacksmith. Jed was known for his discretion and his ability to keep secrets. He was also deeply in debt to Snake Eyes Sam. Billy realized that Jed might be a key to unlocking the truth. The next day, Billy approached Jed at his forge. He offered him a deal, information about Snake Eyes Sam in exchange for clearing his debt. Jed was hesitant at first, but the prospect of freedom from Sam's grip was too tempting to resist. He revealed that Sam had been planning a major gold shipment robbery and that Belle was deeply involved in the operation. He also mentioned rumors of a hidden cache of gold, stashed somewhere outside of town. But the most shocking revelation was about Sam's past. Jed claimed that Sam hadn't saved Belle from a terrible fate. He had orchestrated it. He had deliberately placed her in a dangerous situation so he could rescue her and gain her loyalty. Billy was stunned. Could Belle's devotion be based on a lie? This changed everything. He had to find a way to tell her the truth, but he knew it wouldn't be easy. Belle was fiercely loyal, and she wouldn't believe him without proof. Billy knew he couldn't just walk up to Belle and tell her what Jed had said. She wouldn't believe him. He needed proof, something tangible to shatter her illusions. He decided to focus on the planned gold shipment robbery. If he could find evidence of Sam's involvement, it might be enough to sway her. He and Davies spent the next few days tracking Sam's known associates, piecing together fragments of information. They learned that Sam had been recruiting new members for his gang, offering them a cut of the gold. They also discovered the location of the planned ambush, a narrow canyon pass a few miles outside of town. Armed with this knowledge, Billy decided to confront Belle. He found her alone in the Golden Nugget, cleaning glasses behind the bar. He took a deep breath and approached her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Belle, we need to talk," he said, his voice firm but respectful. Belle looked at him, her eyes guarded. "About what, deputy?" she asked, her voice cold. "About Snake Eyes Sam," Billy replied. "About the gold shipment, and about the truth of how he saved you." Belles faspaled. The game was over. "It's true, isn't it, Belle?" Billy pressed, his voice softening. "He set you up. He put you in danger so he could be your hero. He needed your loyalty, and he was willing to do anything to get it." Belle's eyes welled up with tears. She had always suspected something wasn't right, but she had refused to acknowledge it. "He's planning to rob the gold shipment tomorrow," Billy continued, laying out the evidence he had gathered. "He's putting innocent lives at risk, all for his own greed. Is that the man you're willing to die for?" Belle was silent, her mind reeling. The man she had loved, the man she had poisoned for, was a fraud. A wave of nausea washed over her. She looked at Billy, his face filled with sincerity and concern. She knew he was telling the truth. Suddenly, the saloon doors burst open, and Snake Eye Sam strode in, his face contorted with rage. "Belle, what's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing as he saw Billy. "I thought I told you to stay away from her, lawman." He pulled out his revolver, aiming it at Billy's chest. "Looks like I'll have to finish what you started." Belle stood frozen, caught between the two men. Her loyalty to Sam warred with the growing realization that he had betrayed her. Billy stood his ground, his hand hovering near his own gun, his eyes fixed on Sam. The tension in the saloon was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Sam, put the gun down," Belle said, her voice trembling. "He knows about the gold shipment. He knows everything." Sam's eyes narrowed even further. "You told him?" he snarled, his gaze shifting to Belle. "After everything I've done for you?" "You didn't do it for me, Sam," Belle retorted, her voice rising. "You did it for yourself. You used me." Sam's face contorted with rage. He raised his gun higher, aiming it at Belle. "Fine," he hissed. "If that's how it is, then you can both die." Before Sam could pull the trigger, Belle acted. She grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the bar and smashed it over Sam's head. The bottle shattered, sending shards of glass and whiskey flying. Sam staggered backward, momentarily. Billy seized the opportunity and drew his gun. The final showdown had begun. The saloon erupted in chaos. Patrons screamed and scattered, diving for cover behind tables and chairs. Billy and Sam exchanged gunfire, bullets ricocheting off the walls and shattering glass. Belle, despite her fear, knew she had to do something. She couldn't let Sam hurt anyone else. She grabbed a hidden shotgun from under the bar, a weapon she had always kept for emergencies. As Sam took aim at Billy, Belle stepped forward and fired. The blast caught Sam off guard, sending him sprawling backward, his gun flying from his hand. Billy quickly moved to disarm him, but Sam was far from defeated. He lunged at Billy, knocking him to the ground. A fierce struggle ensued, the two men grappling for control of Billy's gun. Belle watched in horror, knowing that one wrong move could mean the end for either of them. She had to make a choice that would determine the fate of everyone in Redemption Gulch. She chose to help Billy. She grabbed a knife from the bar and moved to assist Billy. The situation was very tense. The outcome was unclear. As Sam pinned Billy to the ground, ready to deliver a fatal blow, Belle lunged forward, plunging the knife into Sam's back. He let out a roar of pain and fury, his grip on Billy loosening. Billy seized the opportunity and shoved Sam off him, scrambling to his feet. Sam turned to face Belle, his eyes filled with betrayal and hatred. You traitor," he gasped, clutching his back. "After everything I did for you." Belle stared back at him, her face a mask of grief and regret. "You didn't do it for me, Sam," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You did it for yourself." With a final surge of strength, Sam lunged at Belle, his hands outstretched to strangle her. Billy reacted instantly, drawing his gun and firing a single shot. The bullet struck Sam in the chest, and he collapsed to the floor, lifeless. The saloon fell silent. The only sound was Belle's ragged breathing and the distant whinny of a horse. The final showdown was over. Snake Eye Sam was dead, but the cost had been high. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and death. The Golden Nugget, once a symbol of hope and opportunity, was now a scene of devastation and despair. Redemption Gulch would never be the same. Belle was arrested and charged with the murder of Sheriff Brody and the other deputies. Despite her cooperation in bringing down Snake Eye Sam, the law was the law. But Billy, forever changed by his experiences in Redemption Gulch, spoke on her behalf. He testified to Sam's manipulation, to Belle's courage in the face of danger, and to her ultimate act of redemption. The judge, swayed by Billy's testimony and the outpouring of support from some of the townspeople, handed down a lenient sentence: 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole. It wasn't justice, but it was something. Billy, his idealism shattered, left Redemption Gulch a hardened but wiser man. He knew that the world wasn't black and white, that even the most charming faces could hide dark secrets. He carried the weight of his friends' deaths, but also the knowledge that he had done everything he could to bring justice to a lawless town. Redemption Gulch slowly began to heal, but the scars remained. The Golden Nugget reopened, but it was never quite the same. The town had lost its innocence, its naivete. It had learned a hard lesson about trust, betrayal, and the true cost of redemption. And Belle, wherever she was, would forever be a part of its story. The end.